Good morning, grade 3 learners. I'm so happy to see all of your bright, smiling faces today. I can tell it's going to be a great day of learning together. But before we begin with all the exciting activities, let's take a moment to pause, be still, and start our day with a prayer. Crystal, can you please lead us in prayer? In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. So thank you, Crystal, for leading the prayer. Let's check if everyone is present today. Please stop your seatmate lightly to see if they're here. And if someone is not in their seat, raise your hand and let me know. So no one is raising their hand, so I guess everyone is present today. Great. Now, let's get our bodies moving with the song Roll Your Hands. Class, let's follow my lead.
Shake 'em just like this. Shake 'em just like this. Shake 'em just like this. And roll your hands. Wiggle them just like this. Wiggle them just like this. Wiggle them just like this. And roll your hands. Clap them just like this. Clap them just like this. Clap them just like this. And roll your hands. I like to move. I like to groove. So come on, shake them just like this. Wiggle them just like this. Clap them just like this. And roll your hands.
Wow, that was awesome, grade 3. I love how active and cheerful you all are today. Now that we've warmed up our bodies and minds, I can tell that you're all ready for our new and exciting lessons. But before that, let's quickly remember our classroom rules. What does SMART stands for? Yes, very good. So I guess, class, that you are all now ready for our first activity entitled Piece and Paste It. So, in this activity, you'll work together in groups to complete a puzzle. You'll be divided in four groups. So, we'll be given 3 minutes to complete your puzzle. And once your puzzle is finished, you'll observe the picture carefully and paste your work because I'll be asking questions after. So, okay? I will group you into 4 groups. For group 1, Andrino to Dilarama. For group 2, from Deroy to Humauas. Group 3, from Lascio to Montesillo. And for group 4, Cisles to Villamero. Am I understood, class? All right. So I will give you 3 minutes for this and your timer starts now. Okay, class, time is up. Please paste your work now. Okay, I will be asking questions. Let's start from group 1. Group 1, please paste your picture. Next slide, please. Okay, group 1, what do you see in your puzzle picture? Great, those are wonderful outdoor activities. Parks are perfect places for riding bikes and playing. What about group 4? Yes, wow, that sounds magical. I love how each group observed different kinds of scenes, some real, some imaginary. So let's explore this more. Question number 2. Group 2, do you think the things in your picture can happen in real life? Yes, absolutely. Those are things we do in real life. What about group 3? Excellent thinking. You're able to tell what's real and what comes from our imagination. Okay, for the last question. What details in the picture make the scene seem possible or imaginary? Yes, group 1. Yes, very good observation. Those are things we see around us every day. So group 4, can you tell us the details that your picture that is telling imaginary? Exactly. So those details are magical and fantastic, things that only exist in stories or fantasy shows. You did a great job identifying that. So now, let's look at how stories can also be real or imaginary, just like with your pictures. You'll work in groups to read short passages and decide whether the events could happen in real life or not. So, these are the instructions. So within the same group earlier, you will receive a short story passage. So you will take turns reading the passages within your groups. So you will discuss within your groups and list your observations. And after that, you will share your findings with your class and provide specific examples from the text. And I will give you 5 minutes to read your short story, and I want you to understand because after that, I will be asking some questions. Okay? Your timer starts now. Class time is up. I hope you understand your story passages because I will be asking questions. Okay, let's start with group 1. What parts of your story could really happen in real life? Next slide. Okay, that's right. Walking a dog and picking flowers are things we see every day. Great job noticing the realistic parts of the story. So raise your hand if you experienced walking in the park or pick flowers before. Yes. See, those are experiences we share. That's what makes the story real. Okay, for group 2. Your story had some fantasy elements. What made it different from a real life story? Mm-hmm. Exactly. Animals can't talk and shoes don't have magic powers. That's a clear sign it's a fantasy story. How about group 3? Yes. Fantasy stories often include magic, talking creatures, or things that don't happen in our world. But that's what makes them fun, right? Yes. So let's hear from group 4. How can you tell if a story is real or make believe? Mm-hmm. Great answer. That's a smart way to think about it. Real stories can happen to us or to people we know, but make believe stories let our imagination go wild. So, very well done, class. Give yourselves a round of applause. So, now, to help us go even deeper and talk about what we discovered, we have teacher Audrey who will guide us in the next part of our lesson. So, teacher Audrey, take it away.
Thank you so much for that, Teacher Margie. Now, class, have you enjoyed Teacher Margie's activity earlier? Okay, that's very good. Now, this time we are going to talk about the stories that you have explored earlier in your activity with Teacher Margie. We are going to check if what made some stories seem real and what made others sound imaginary. Now, do you have any idea what will be your topic for today? Yes, Syra? Stories, very good. What else? Jadil? Magical. Okay, what else? Yes, Angelica. Realistic story. Okay, very good. So our topic for today is all about realistic stories and fantasy stories. So next slide, please. First, we have here realistic story. Now, what comes first in your mind when you hear the word realistic or a realistic story? What does that mean? True to life? What else? Real? Okay, very good. So very good answers. So when we talk about realistic story, it is a situation that is true or an event that could really happen in real life. So this means that these are the stories that are possible to happen. These are the events, characters, or even settings that are possible and true to life. Now, I have here some examples for you to really understand what is realistic stories. Okay, first example, we have the eagle flew high. Okay, so that is an example of a realistic story because as we all know, birds can fly, right? Okay, very good. Now, another example we have here, the girl ate a hot dog for dinner. Okay, who among you here loves to eat hot dog?
Okay, very good. So this is also an example of a realistic story. Next example, please. Okay, we also have Harry played video games after school. And of course, last example is the boy is reading a book. Okay, very good. So those are examples of a realistic story. Now, who can give me one example of a realistic story? Okay, very good, Sarah. Thank you so much. That is a very good example of a realistic story. So now that we already know what is a realistic story, let us then proceed to fantasy story. So what does fantasy story mean? Now, what comes first in your mind when you hear the word fantasy or fantasy story? Magical. What else? Very good. Flying. What? Okay, flying bikes. Okay, so that is an example of a fantasy, or for you, that is what fantasy story mean. Okay, very good. So let us check if your answers are correct. So when we talk about fantasy story, it is a situation or an event that is magical. Very good, just like what Jado said earlier. So it also means that these are situations that are make believe and could not really happen in real life. So in other words, it is a product of imagination. Okay, very good. So next slide, please. I also have prepared examples for you to really understand what is a fantasy stories. So first example, we have the water froze and turned into diamonds. Oh, that's magical, right? Okay, so that is an example of a fantasy story. Next, we have the farmer planted pizza and hamburger. Okay, it is a fantasy story because yeah, farmers cannot plant pizza and hamburger because these foods can just be cooked and not farmed, right? Okay, very good. So next example, please. Okay, next example for fantasy story is the cat is preparing a coffee. It is also magical. Next is the flower sings beautifully. Okay, so those mentioned are examples of fantasy story. So class, you please always remember that if a story talks about the things that we do every day, like taking a bath, eating, studying, or even helping a friend, it is probably a realistic story. But always remember that if the story has unicorns, flying bikes, talking cats, it is definitely a fantasy, okay? Okay, very good. Now, question. Why do you think it is important for us to know the difference between realistic and fantasy story? Okay, very good. That's correct. It is important for us to know the difference because knowing the difference will help us understand what is possible to happen in real life and what only comes from someone's imagination. So when we talk about realistic stories, these stories can teach us lessons and show how people can solve problems in real life. Well, on the other hand, when we talk about fantasy stories, these stories are fun, mostly fun, creative, but we have to always remember that these stories are not real. Okay. Now, how do you think can we use this skill when reading other stories? Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. That's a great idea. So when we read new stories, yes, it can help us to ask good questions like, could this story really happen in real life, or does this story is just for fun and a product of imagination? Okay, so in that way, in that questions that we can build in our minds, we can understand what the author or the writer of the story is trying to portray or trying to say to the readers. Okay, So again, always remember that both type of stories are fun to read. However, realistic stories can it has different purpose. Realistic stories can help us understand the real world, while fantasy stories can help us use our imagination. Okay, is that clear? Any questions or clarifications? Okay, very good. No more questions now. If there are no more questions, let us proceed to our next activity. Okay, so this activity is entitled Team Think and Match activity. Next slide, please. What you're going to do is, first I assume that you are now seated according to your groups, four groups, right? Okay, very good. So what you're going to do in this activity is each group will be given two sets of flashcards. So these flashcards contain a set of stories. So each group will have to decide whether the story belongs to realistic or fantasy category. And you're going to place each set cards under the correct category or the chart provided, meaning you are going to sort the stories, okay? Okay, understood. So after sorting, you have to choose one representative from your group to present to briefly explain your work. Okay? Is that clear? Okay, very good. Now I will give you 8 minutes to do this activity. But first, these are the, I have already distributed the flashcards. So for group 1, and then for group 2, group 3, and group 4. Okay, so you can now start. Okay, is everyone done? Okay, that's very good. So let us now proceed to your presentation. Okay, so let us hear from group 1. So which card did you put under fantasy? Okay, very good. How about realistic? Okay, very good. Now, how did you categorize those stories? Okay, very good, group 1. Okay, good job, everyone. Thank you so much. I can really see that you really did understood our lesson earlier. Now, I have a few questions to ask to check if you really understood our lesson. Now, again, how can you tell if something is realistic or fantasy? Okay, correct. Very good. So we can tell by looking at the details, of course, of the story, if the events, the characters, and situations are something that we do every day, like going to school, eating, or helping a friend. Okay, so that means the story is what again? Okay, very good, realistic. But if the story has things that cannot happen in real life, these stories are okay, very good. Fantasy. So always remember that clues like magic, superpowers, flying bikes, or talking cats, those are only imaginations or make believe. Very good. Now, why do you think it is important for us to identify whether the story is realistic or fantasy? Great answers, very good. So it is important for us to identify the type of story so that we know how to think about it. In realistic stories, we can learn real life lessons or connect it to our own experiences. While on the other hand, in fantasy stories, we can enjoy writing them or reading them using our imaginations. But we know also that these stories are not true. So by this, it will help us, yes, very good, become smart and very good, responsible readers. Okay. And lastly, how do you think can understanding the difference between reality and fantasy stories will help us in real life? Does it really helps? Okay, very good answer. So, knowing the difference will help us make better decisions. Yes, very good. In real life, for example, If someone says that they can fly like a superhero, we know in ourselves that that story is not possible. It is only fantasy, right? Okay, very good. But how about if someone says that he or she studied hard to get a good grades? Is that true or realistic? Okay, very good. That story is a realistic story. Also, this skill can help us when we will be watching shows or reading a book or even using the internet. It will help us think critically, stay safe, and of course, understand the world better. Okay? Is that clear? Okay, very good. Any questions or clarifications about our lesson? Okay, if there's none, I will now call Teacher Shira for your next activity. Okay? So, Teacher Shira, take it away.
All right, class, you've done so well exploring and identifying realistic and fantasy stories with teacher Audrey. Now it's your turn to become writers. Okay, I will group you into pairs, and once you're paired up, I need each pair to write two stories. One story should be realistic and the other one should be fantasy. Each story should have at least three sentences. And remember, a realistic story is based on something that could really happen in your life, and a fantasy story is based on your imagination, something magical or make believe. You get to choose with your partner who will write the realistic story and who will write the fantasy story. And you have about 5 minutes for this. You may start now. Okay, time is up. Great job, everyone. Now I will randomly call on two pairs to share their stories with the class. And don't be shy, and we're also excited to hear your creativity. Okay, thank you for sharing. Now, how did you come up with the idea for your story? That's a great choice for a realistic story. It shows you understand how to use real experiences in writing. And why do you think your story is realistic and fantasy? Awesome thinking. You clearly understand the difference between real and made up ideas or made up belief stories. And which do you enjoy more? Writing realistic stories or fantasy stories, and why? All right, very good, class. Those are excellent insights, class. It's important to know the difference so we understand whether a story is based on real life or purely imagination, which helps us become better readers and writers. Okay, before we end, here is your assignment. You may take a screenshot or wait for me to post this in our Google Classroom. You will decide whether each describes a realistic or fantasy situation, and you write your answer on a sheet of paper. And your other assignment is read each question and you must circle the correct letter on your worksheet. Okay, you may submit your answers through our Google Classroom, and this will be due tomorrow before 5 p.m. And that's it for today, class. You did an amazing job exploring and realistic and fantasy stories. Keep imagining and observing the world around you. See you in our next class. Bye.